I'll never forget the night I first stumbled onto Sulkycats' stream. It was a quiet winter evening, the kind that makes you want to curl up in a warm blanket and forget about the world. The pitter-patter of raindrops against my window was a soothing lullaby, and I found myself sinking deeper and deeper into a state of pure relaxation as I sat down to play some Terraria and browse some Twitch. A fresh recommendation caught my eye, a Vtuber Catgirl with big, endearing yellow orbs for eyes. Immediately, a smile broke across my face. She welcomed me with surprising promptness as I joined, her tail twitching in a charming manner. She asked how I was doing, her tone friendly and inviting. I typed out a quick response in the chat, sharing with Sulkycats my experience with my new boss. I'd recently changed jobs and moved across the country. My boss was a tall woman with a cold voice who was giving me a hard time. Sulkycats glanced at my message, her eyes darting back and forth as she took it all in, before letting out an infectious chuckle. "Oh my, no hopes for an office romance then," she quipped. "But maybe you could use it to your advantage. Call her mommy every once in a while and see if she gives you a raise." The other viewers got in on the joke too, chuckling and making some light-hearted and slightly weird comments of their own. For the next few minutes, Sulkycats kept up a steady stream of light-hearted banter, entertaining her viewers with stories and jokes. It was like she was a close friend, someone who knew just how to make me laugh and feel at ease. I found myself returning to Sulkycats' streams time and time again, like a moth drawn to a flame. It was a respite from the drudgery of everyday life, a brief escape from the soul-crushing monotony of work and home. I had been feeling lonely since the move, and the virtual company of this charming cat girl was a balm to my aching heart. But then, like a bolt from the blue, I received an angry phone call from my sister. She'd been trying to reach me for weeks, she said, and I'd been ignoring her. It was strange, because I couldn't recall ever rejecting any of her calls. It was like something had taken a hold of me, something that was keeping me tethered to the screen. Talking to a loved one felt refreshing, but it also made me realize that perhaps I'd been spending too much time in Sulkycats' world, and maybe it was time to step back into reality. It was then that I made my biggest mistake. It was so habitual at that point. When I got home that day, I sat down and opened the stream. She began to talk about things that seemed to be directed specifically at me. Small details that made it seem almost as if she knew what had happened during my day. Her chat room became filled with strange, cryptic messages. I started to feel a little lightheaded, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. The next day, I woke up with a headache. I tried to tell myself that the events of the past nights must have been a weird dream, but the more I watched her streams, the more convinced I became that Sulkycats was slowly driving me mad. I decided that I was done with her streams. I got home and immediately unplugged the internet so I wouldn't fall into that deadly cycle again. As I lay in bed that night, trying to push the thoughts of her out of my mind, I suddenly heard her voice again. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but then I realized that her voice was still coming from my computer. I got up and approached the computer cautiously, feeling a strange mix of fear and fascination. Sulkycats' voice was coming through loud and clear, and I couldn't help but listen. As I stood there, transfixed by her words, I realized that Sulkycats wasn't just a VTuber. She was something far more powerful, something that had found a way to reach into my mind and control me from a distance. In the end, I could only watch in horror as Sulkycats continued to speak, her words weaving a web of madness and despair around me. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The room that once looked so ordinary was now a twisted, distorted version of itself. The colors were all wrong, like a carnival mirror that had warped and contorted everything it reflected. And the awful sounds. It started with a light-hearted giggling, but quickly developed into an ear-piercing cacophony that was like nails on a chalkboard, scraping relentlessly against my senses. That's when I noticed the shadows. They were slithering across the walls like something alive and malevolent. And then I heard a whisper, a frigid breath that sent shivers down my spine. It was right behind me. I turned, but there was no one there. My thoughts were scattered like a jigsaw puzzle that had been thrown to the ground. I felt her eyes upon me, a twisted smile curling her lips, and then the madness took hold. I was trapped in her thrall, caught in a never-ending nightmare that she had conjured. It was as if I was doomed to spend an eternity in her grasp, unable to escape. The shadows continued to slither, the colors continued to warp, and the sounds continued to scrape against my senses. I knew that I had to get out, but I was trapped, powerless to resist her.